It's Christmas time. Just 3 days away, Christmas takes place. We're going to have Christmas today. Luke chapter 2. At that time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that a census should be taken throughout the Roman Empire. These censuses were held infrequently in Rome. The whole purpose of the census was to determine the population of an area so that Rome knew how much to tax them. So the census was not a very pleasant time for anybody living in the Roman Empire. During this census, instead of going and seeing people where they lived, people had to return to the village in which they were born. I'm not sure why. Perhaps because so they could check records. Is this person still alive? I don't know. But Joseph and Mary traveled from Galilee, where they now lived, to Joseph's town, Bethlehem, where apparently he was born. In verse 6, while they were there, the time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her first child, a son. She wrapped him snugly in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no lodging available for them. The older translations say there was no room for them in the inn. I'm not sure why the translators use the word inn. It simply says there was no room for them in the lodging, in the inhabited house. Although inns did exist at that period of time, it's highly unlikely that Joseph, who was poor, would have been able to afford a room. He was probably staying in a family's house, maybe a cousin, maybe an uncle. They got there, as did many other people. And what Scripture is telling us was there was not a private room for Mary to be in when she gave birth. Instead, she gave birth in the public room of the house. In fact, so public that even the animals that the house owned that needed to be protected with warmth occupied that room as well. And so when Jesus was born, they laid him in a feeding trough, in a manger, because it was padded with straw, with grass, with barley. It was soft and could receive a baby. Jesus was born. You know what I love about that story? It's kind of the way Jesus lived his whole life. He was born in a manger that belonged to someone else. During his life, he called someone to follow him. He said, foxes have dens. Animals have caves that they live in. I have nothing. Even when he died, he was buried. The only thing that he owned was taken from him and gambled away. And he was buried in someone else's tomb. At this time of year when we give gifts and we get a little greedy, let's remember that Jesus didn't own a thing, but he was rich. I pray that you will have Jesus's riches in your life this Christmas.